Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and this video where I'm going to go through once again my favorite players at each and every price point. I did this earlier in the preseason as well where I selected every single player that I like at each price point, but that time I used two categories, which was one was the early season pick and the other was like the full season pick. This time around I made it slightly differently. I've done gold pick, silver pick and bronze pick, the three favorite players that I have for each price point, where there are enough players available, because at some price points you only have one player available, or some price point you only have two players available. But I'm going to basically rank my favorite assets at each and every price point in this video right before the deadline is about to arrive, basically. So yeah, let's just start with the goalkeepers straight away. And the most expensive goalkeepers, the 5.5 goalkeepers, there's actually only 4 alternatives there, so one has been left out. That is Ederson. Seems like he's on his way out. Trafford is probably going to be the starting goalkeeper anyway, I think, for Man City, if they stay with the same goalkeepers that they have now. But Gianluigi Donnarumma is on his way in for Man City, it seems like, as well. So yeah, even less reasons to pick Ederson. But from the 5.5s, I think David Raya is still the best goalkeeper out of the three. He plays for the best defense in Arsenal. They're going to keep the most clean sheets, and I think that's going to be pretty much the saving point for Raya. But speaking of saving points, actually, that's where Pickford might be better. He's the silver pick for me. He's the second best pick, pretty close to Raya, but I think I just prefer Raya just because of those assured clean sheet points that we're going to get. But Pickford probably gets a lot of saves, probably more bonus points as well from the saves, because there's more bonus to be had now from goalkeepers saving shots, which I'll get to when I go to my 5.0 goalkeepers especially. So Pickford is still really good and could have easily been the first choice at the 5.5 category as well. Alisson, quite like Liverpool, are pretty good, but defensively they've gotten some new defenders now. They have to adjust. I don't think they'll be like super good defensively this season. So I think Alisson is slightly worse than the other two. But I don't really think the 5.5 goalkeepers are that good anyway. I think it's just too much to spend on a goalkeeper where you have other options, and you really want to spend the money on defense where you can get those defensive contribution points, which are so valuable, I guess I should say. But yeah, going to the 5.0 section, I think Mats Sels has been my favorite goalkeeper the whole time, and that's basically down to me having bad experiences with Sanchez. Also, like, I'm a bit unsure, like, if you want to start with just one starting goalkeeper basically at 5.0 and have the Dubravka at 4.0, you're running the risk potentially with Chelsea of having like Champions League midweek rotation, as we've seen in the past, where all of a sudden Jurgensen plays when Sanchez is going to be playing in the Champions League in that same midweek. So slightly worried about that for Sanchez. Also, just Chelsea in general just seem to concede one goal per game. They concede a lot of, like, very few goals, but it seems like they just concede one goal, kind of like City back in the day. So yeah, I just prefer Sels for that reason. Also think Sels will get more saves. Like I said with Pickford, he's going to get more saves, especially in the box, where Nottingham Forest are really good. They concede a lot of shots in the box, but they don't concede a lot of goals, and that's perfect for Sels. I think he's going to get more bonus than usual as well. So I think that's going to bode well for him in the entire season, basically. Third pick, don't really think any of the other 5.0s are like super good. I went with Ramsdale in the end because I think Newcastle will actually be pretty good defensively this season, because they will have to lock up and shore up defensively without Isak potentially in the team. I think they'll be more defensively minded now, especially also with Elanga, who's really good at counterattack. So Ramsdale, not the biggest fan of him as a goalkeeper, but I think as a pick, he's a pretty good, solid choice for Newcastle at 5.0. I think their defense is going to be pretty good this season. I think Trafford as well, if they don't get Donnarumma, Man City could be a good option, but I just don't like spending a City spot on a goalkeeper. It's really unexciting in general, even if it is for 5.0, even if it is nailed, because there's so many good attacking assets from Man City, as we'll get to eventually in this video, basically. 4.5, I quite like Hermansen now at West Ham. West Ham are looking better defensively under Graham Potter. Hermansen is also a solid, like a really good upgrade actually over Areola, who was really bad last season. I think in general, West Ham's defense is looking better. Aguero is coming back. He was kind of struggling in a back 2 previously. In a back 3, he was pretty good with Sociedad. I think they played a back 3 actually. And I think he can help shore up that West Ham defense alongside Todibo, Kilman, and Mavropanos there as well, with some really good attacking fullbacks as well. So I think Hermansen's a pretty good pick. Kelleher, going to get a lot of those saves, like I mentioned, in the box as well. That's something Brentford are really good at, conceding a lot of shots that are easy to save for their goalkeepers. So I think Kelleher is going to get a lot of saves, but I don't think there's going to be too many clean sheets, basically. For Bergen, I think he's like okay. Brighton are kind of tough to gauge. I don't really know. Fabregas also might be out for game week 1 as well, so that's going to hamper the pick like early on as well. So yeah, just too much uncertainty when it comes to Brighton and goalkeepers, I think. So yeah, Fabregas is the third option there. Not that many good 4.5 goalkeepers, I think, in general either. goalkeepers in general are really difficult to choose. 4.0, Dubravka is the clear-cut number one choice because he is the only one playing, like for sure. But we have Kinski, who might be playing for Spurs, at least at some point this season. He's gotten a lot of plaudits from Thomas Frank, who might change goalkeepers at some point this season. Wouldn't be too surprised to see that, whether that's from Game Week 1 with Kinski, even though Vicario played in the Super Cup now. It wouldn't be too surprising to see Kinski come into the team at some point, I think. Also, speaking of people coming into the team at some point, Bentley at Wolverhampton, David Bentley. No, that's not his name, probably. David Bentley's the old Arsenal Spurs kind of guy, or West Ham as well, sadly. But anyways, Bentley at Wolves. His name escapes me. Maybe it is David, actually. Maybe that's the same name. Whatever. He seems to be playing a couple games each season, so he might be someone that's good to have as well as your bench backup. But yeah, Dubravka is the easy choice there at 4.0. Let's move on to the defenders. We have all the defenders here listed in all the price points for the defenders here listed up, and we start with the 6.0 defenders, which is a really interesting category, I think, in general. I gone with Gabriel as my goal pick because I think Arsenal defensively will just be really good. We also know Gabriel's goal capabilities as well. He can score goals a lot, basically, from set pieces. I think he's really good. I think Frimpong as the silver pick, I think he's being slept on massively, especially started the season now with Conor Bradley potentially being injured, might be injured for a while. He's been out in the latest preseason games. I think Frimpong is amazing. I think even when Bradley is fully fit, I think Frimpong is going to play most matches. Don't believe all the hype from Liverpool fans who say that, oh, we have this young, youthful defender who's going to play more than you expect than the other, like, international superstar. We saw that last season with Kwanzaa. Liverpool fans were so certain that Kwanzaa was going to play a lot, and he played for 45 minutes and then he was never to be seen, basically. And Konate came in. And I think the same is going to be said for Frimpong. I think he's going to play mostly most matches for Liverpool, even further up once Salah leaves for AFCON. I think Frimpong is going to be amazing around that time when Salah leaves, and Frimpong could potentially play higher up in the pitch as well. And at that point, I think Bradley will be a good right back to have, especially, and also just someone to pick sometimes there. But I think Frimpong is going to be really, really good this season, and I have him as a silver pick. But he is slightly risky, I think. Kukurea is not that risky at all, especially now with Hato being more covered for centre back than left wing back. And I think Kukurea as well. It's just a sure starter there for Chelsea. It remains to be seen how good Chelsea will be. I have them fourth in my table prediction. I think they'll be good, but not good enough to basically challenge the top three of Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. But Kukurea is going to be so offensive. He's going to get a lot of points. We saw it last season as well. A lot of 15-pointers. I think I can see that thing happening again. Maybe even 17-pointers if he gets defensive contribution points and on top of that. So Kukurea is also someone that I really, really like. I really like the 6.0 defenders in general. And they're now being pretty undervalued because a lot of people are talking about the 5.5 defenders instead, which we'll get to now. Murillo is my favorite for 5.5 defender. I think he has another level to go to because he's really young and he's improving. He has more goals in him, I think, as well than he has shown in the past. I think he can easily get closer to the goal amount that Milenkovic had last season. So I think he's just better when it comes to both bonus points and defensive contribution points. He's better than Milenkovic, who I don't have listed here at all. Tarkowski, defensive contributions monster. You just have to play him every week. That's the thing that I'm not like too confident about. I picked him in my own team for a little while, but then I looked like in future game weeks, and you sort of just have to play him in games against like Liverpool, for example. Like you have paid a premium for this player, so you should probably play him most game weeks. And I just don't feel too confident in Everton not conceding like 4 goals or something against Liverpool, and defensive contribution points not really counting for anything because they're going to be negated by the goals conceded and stuff as well. So Tarkowski is a really good option. I'm talking him down a little bit now. I shouldn't be too low on him because in the good matches that they have, he's going to be fantastic. He is like a 50% chance potentially, even more, of getting defensive contribution points in each game that he starts. So he's just a defensive contributions monster, and he's going to get quite a lot of clean sheets as well. I have actually set Everton 7th in the table prediction, so maybe that should count for something when I try to pick my team. Tarkowski is still an option for me, but yeah, he's really, really good, of course. Munoz as well. Super attacking, a bit of a different alternative to the other guys. He is more attacking, getting goals and assists, more so than defensive contribution points, but we know he's going to deliver on that end as well, so I really like Munoz at 5.5. 5.0, Neco Williams is my favorite. Still depends, remains to be seen if Nottingham Forest bring in another left back potentially, but I still think even if they bring in someone like Leif Davis, for example, Neco Williams will be the preferred player in the league. And once they play in the Europa League, I think that will be maybe where Leif Davis plays more if they bring in someone like him, for example. So I think Neco Williams will still be pretty nailed, and if he's nailed, I think he's the best 5.0 defender because of defensive contribution points, assist potential. He's going to play 90 minutes as well, most likely in that instance as well, and get more defensive contribution points that way. I think he's just a really good player overall for 5.0 and someone that I'm really considering having in my Game Week 1 squad as well. Anthony Robinson will not be in my Game Week 1 squad because he is injured, but he is going to be really good as well. He is pretty good for defensive contribution points as well. I quite like that with Neco Williams and Robinson. They're both really good attacking wise, and they're also good for defensive contribution points. That's really rare in this game. So I really like both those picks quite a lot, actually. Romero as my final 5.0 defender. I think he can get quite a defensive contribution points boost from having Thomas Frank as his manager. Also, set piece goals is probably better for Romero. We saw that in the Super Cup. He scored a goal there. So I think Romero is actually pretty good. But we also saw in the Super Cup that when they have tough opposition, those matches where they're most likely to get defensive contribution points, he's probably going to play alongside Danso in a 3-back system, and Danso is going to like eat up all those defensive contributions basically, which is going to hamper Romero a bit in that regard. So I think Romero in a back 2, he's going to get a lot of defensive contribution points potentially, but in a back 3, which is going to be happening against the more difficult teams where it's more likely to get those defensive contribution points, I think Romero is going to struggle a bit more. So yeah, I quite like him. Interesting pick. I don't have Pedro Porro, as you can see. I think he's a good pick. He probably would be like my 4th choice at 5.5. But I think Romero is just slightly better when it comes to like still has like decent goal threat and has better defensive contribution points potential than Pedro Porro as well at a cheaper price, which is the most important part for Romero basically. 4.5, speaking of defensive contribution points, that is the main thing when it comes to defenders, it feels like this season, and Agbadou is fantastic in that regard. I also think Wolves will be pretty good defensively. They've lost Ait-Nouri and Cunha, but those are offensive players mainly. I think defensively they'll still be pretty solid as they were under Vitor Pereira, and I think Agbadou and Wolves will keep quite a few clean sheets, and Agbadou will get a lot of defensive contribution points as well on top of that. Same as something you can say about Joachim Andersen, who plays for a better team in Fulham, I think. I have them higher in the table prediction that I made yesterday, but I don't think he's quite as good as Agbadou when it comes to defensive contribution points, but he's still really, really good in that regard. Fulham, not the best fixtures from the start of the season, but I think they're good enough, at least in the game weeks where I need him to play, basically. So I think he is someone that I'm going to have in my Game Week 1 squad as well. You can see these 4.5 defenders, as you'll see in my team selection tomorrow. These 3 are all on my team: Agbadou, Andersen, and Diouf. I think this is a really good price point in general, because I think, yes, we have Murillo and Tarkowski, who were really good last season, a lot of clean sheets on top of the defensive contribution points. But if Agbadou and Andersen can get more clean sheets than last season, on top of that have the defensive contribution points regularly, they'll be probably like the same value as Murillo and Tarkowski, which is 1 million more than they are. So I think there's going to be some really, really good 4.5 defenders. I think once we get to the end of the season, 4.5 defenders is going to be the best valued players. It just remains to be seen who that is. We know already Murillo and Tarkowski are going to be really good. We don't know which 4.5s are going to be really good. So I'm kind of spreading my wealth around there and having a lot of 4.5 defenders who I think can be really good across the whole season in Agbadou, Andersen. Just remains to be seen how good those teams are. But we'll see pretty early. We saw that last season. It was pretty early established that Nottingham Forest were going to be really good defensively. And I think we'll see the same this season with either Fulham or Wolves. I think one of those guys, one of those teams have really good potential to be a really good defensive team as well. So yeah, I quite like both those 2 players. Diouf is a different player. He is a new player for West Ham at left back. I quite like Wan-Bissaka still at right wing back. He's one of my favorite players as well. But Diouf has shown in preseason that he has sky-high potential going forward. So I really like that for 4.5. Really like that price point. I think he should probably be 5.0 in a regular season when he has that attacking threat that he has. The next season he's probably going to be 5.0 or maybe even 5.5, depending on how good West Ham will be this season. But I think, again, West Ham defensively will be a lot better this season with the new goalkeeper and some more time under Graham Potter's system. So I think Diouf is going to be a really nice option at 4.5 as well. I even have another potential 4.5 defender in my own team, which, as you'll see tomorrow, that's like my final spot in my team selection, where I might go at Richards from Crystal Palace. So I think it's going to be really good, especially early this season when there's not much competition for places there for Crystal Palace as well. 4.0, not that many players to choose from. I've selected Julian Araujo from Bournemouth just as like a nice differential pick. I don't really like any other 4.0 defenders. I want to go with someone who has more like super high potentially in Araujo, who's going to be an attacking fullback for a potentially better team than the newly promoted sides that we have to pick from otherwise. So I quite like Araujo. Esteve is like the main guy in defense for most people, especially with that Game Week 2 fixture that he has against Sunderland. So to get that as well, he's going to get quite a lot of defensive contribution points, I think, with them getting promoted and now facing a lot tougher opposition. I think he's going to have to defend more, get more of those defensive contribution points. But I also think Burnley will concede quite a lot of goals, which will negate those defensive contribution points in total and not many clean sheets. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Esteve. I know the biggest fan of any of the 4.0 defenders in general, really. So my final guy is Kiana Hoover, who's probably going to lose his place before Game Week 3 or Game Week 4 for Wolves, and they have really tough fixtures before Game Week 4 as well this season. I think they'll sign a new right wing back before the transfer window has ended, but if they don't, Kiana Hoover could play the whole season, or at least until January, as the right wing back mainly for Wolves, which would be really, really good value, of course, since I do have Agbadou as one of my favorite players, because I think Wolves are pretty good defensively, especially if they shore up that right wing back spot with Hoover basically there. Let's move on to the midfielders that are the most expensive, and this is really easy. We only have one choice for each category: Salah, Palmer, Saka, Fernandes. I think I'll just compare the four of them, really, rather than comparing them to other players at the price point, because they don't have anyone at the price point. Salah, obviously, favorite pick. He is my captain. Just simple choice. Not really much to talk about there. He is just a safe player from the start of the season. Game Week 1 against Bournemouth at home. Game Week 4 against Burnley away. I think that's really good. I'm also free hitting in Game Week 3 myself, so I don't really have to worry about his fixture against Arsenal either. So I think Salah is going to be amazing for me, and going to be my captain to pick most game weeks. Even Newcastle Game Week 2, I think that could be slightly difficult. Like I said, I think Newcastle will be better defensively than what people expect. But Salah in Game Week 1 and 4 especially is going to be amazing. So yeah, Game Week 5 as well, I think, is again Everton at home. That's also a really good fixture for Salah. So he's just going to be really good from the start of the season. Palmer, all the way through Game Week 12, I think he's going to have really, really good fixtures in general. He's just a safe pick. He's the penalty taker, talisman for Chelsea. Simple choice in most FPL squads, basically. But there is some arguments at least to go for Saka instead, especially if you're like me going for a free hit in Game Week 3 where you don't have to worry about the Liverpool fixture for Saka. He has potentially better fixtures than Palmer in the first four, disregarding Game Week 3. But just long term, I just prefer Palmer a little bit, but I do have that inclination of maybe I should go for Saka instead. But yeah, I'm probably going to stick with Palmer. Because to Bruno Fernandes, start of the season is going to be really tough, but across the whole season, I think he's actually going to be the best valued player out of these four, potentially. Salah, of course, is like the misnomer. He can get 300 plus points once again, which will be really hard to top, even if he is 14.5. But I think Bruno Fernandes is going to get close to 200 points this season, with Man United being a better team most likely, and him still providing the defensive contribution points on top of everything else he does in terms of penalties, just being a talisman for Man United. I think he's going to be a really good pick eventually, but I don't like him in the first few fixtures. The first 5 fixtures for Man United are awful, except for Game Week 3, which is when I'm going to free hit and bring in Bruno Fernandes. So that's my really cheeky little tip for you guys. I think free hitting in Game Week 3 is the way to go, in my opinion. We'll see if I'm right. It's going to be interesting to see, at least. It's going to be early season as well, so it's really exciting. I think Game Week 3 is going to be really fun for me. Hopefully, we never know. But yeah, anyways, quite like all four of these players. They are quite expensive, but for a reason. And I also don't really have too many players at the lower price points in midfielders that I really, really like, as we'll see. But yeah, I'll talk through my favorite in those price points as we see it right now. First and foremost, 8.5 midfielders. We have two options, Marmoush and Wirtz. I think it's pretty close between them, but looking back at the Bundesliga last season, Marmoush ended up with more goals and assists than Wirtz in total, even though Marmoush left in January. So his high-end potential is absolutely amazing, Marmoush. I think he has, I've said this a couple of videos, I think he has the potential to be one of the best players in the Premier League, basically. Could overtake, be the prince to Salah's kingdom and basically take over the crown as a superstar in this league, basically. So he has sky-high potential. Obviously, that same thing applies for Wirtz. He's amazing. He's 22 years old as well. He's going to be improving even more. He seems more nailed as well, which is why I kind of like him more than Marmoush early season, potentially. I don't know. It's really close between Marmoush and Wirtz. I quite like both of them, but not enough to get any one of them in my Game Week 1 squad, most likely. It might change, but yeah, I think they're really good picks, both of them, but I'm just slightly put off for them in general. 8.0 midfielders, not as many good options in my opinion, but I think Cunha could be really good. He hasn't been good in preseason, but again, preseason doesn't really count for much when it comes to goals and assists and things. I don't think it is that important to bang in goals and assists in preseason. It doesn't need to be indicative of anything. Like we saw with Salah or in many previous preseasons in the past, he hasn't really been good in preseason, and then when the whole thing starts, the serious game starts, he just turns it on and becomes really good. And I think the same could be said about Cunha, who's a pretty lazy player, so I don't think he really tries his best in preseason games. I think he's going to be more good when it comes to regular season matches. But yeah, again, Man United's first few fixtures are pretty bad. Game Week 3, however, is really good. That's when I'm looking potentially to get Cunha or Mbeumo, who I have as my bronze pick here. for my free hit team in Game Week 3. Just to talk about Mbeumo still before we go to the more spicy pick, I guess, in my view, in Ødegaard. Let's talk about Mbeumo as well. I think he's going to be more impacted by having no penalties for Man United compared to Cunha. Cunha had 0 penalties last season, 1 penalty, not quite sure. Mbeumo scored like 5 or 6, I think, for Brentford, so that's going to be a bigger detriment to Mbeumo than Cunha, but Mbeumo still obviously a really good player who's also good at that value as well. So yeah, I think he's a pretty good pick still, but I think Cunha and Fernandes are just preferable at that price point or close to that price point in general in FPL. We also have Martin Ødegaard for Arsenal. I think it's actually a sneaky good pick at 8.0. He was someone that I quite liked last season as well at 8.5, but he had a really awful season for some reason. I don't really know what it was, but I think he's going to be much better this season. With Zubimendi behind him, he's going to be more free to do more offensive things, which is what he's really good at. He also is going to have a really proper good striker in Victor Gyökeres as well in front of him. That's going to help him magnificently as well. Ødegaard is actually like consistently for Norway. He is like the best player pretty much. Him and Antonio Nusa really. Haaland is still also obviously really good, but and Sørloth as well. But Ødegaard has been just absolutely amazing for Norway. Even last season when he really struggled for Arsenal, he's been amazing for Norway. And I think that is because he has Haaland in front of him, a really good striker. And I think that's going to be what helps him this season as well. So I think it's actually a really sneaky good pick at 8.0 as well, but I really like Cunha as well, honestly. 7.5, Eze, who might also go to Arsenal, but he's also now more linked to Spurs. Not quite sure what I want for him in terms of FPL, like how I think he would be a better asset, but in general, just Eze is a fantastic player. Whether he plays for Palace, whether he goes to Arsenal, whether he goes to Spurs, I think he's going to be a really good player at some point this season. Early season though, he's been struggling the last 2 seasons to get going straight away, which is why I'm sort of put off by him early season. Also with the transfer rumors and stuff, you don't really know. He might be left out of one game because he's on his way to a different club and maybe he just made a transfer right before the game. Like, it's just difficult to choose him early on. But I think for the entirety of the season, he's going to be really good once again, Eze, because he has that much talent in him to be really, really good. Anthony Gordon for Newcastle, it seems like he's going to be the starting striker for now at least. They haven't signed a new striker in Newcastle, and Isak is still said that he won't play ever again for Newcastle. So I think Gordon's going to play up front from the start of the season. But again, like with Man United, Newcastle don't have the best fixtures except for Game Week 3. But again, I'm going to try to get the likes of Gordon, for example, or Elanga, who I also like at the next price point, as we'll get to soon as well. Final 7.5 is Gakpo. Not the biggest fan of him in general. I think his playing time is going to be a bit iffy, especially if Isak comes to Newcastle. They're going to have to play Ekitike, Wirtz, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch. They have just too many players in those positions, and Salah's going to play obviously every single game at right wing as well. So I think Gakpo's not going to be a sure starter, but from the start of the season, he could be a really good asset. So I don't really mind it too much if you want to go for a punt in him, and having especially for Game Week 1 and Game Week 4, which are really good fixtures for Liverpool. Game Week 5 as well is pretty good as well, if he can keep his place, that is. Because Game Week 4 is like the main thing. If Isak comes to Liverpool before that, Gakpo might not play in Game Week 4 potentially, but we'll see. Isak hasn't really played in preseason. He's going to get some time to get acclimatized if he even moves to Liverpool. We don't really know yet. So yeah, Gakpo is still a pretty good pick early on at least, but long term, not as high on him as I am for Eze and Gordon, basically. 7.0, really high on Morgan Rodgers, and it seems like now he's going to be back and ready to play in Game Week 1. He's back in training for Aston Villa, it seems like, judging from that social media video that they had about who's going to be the first goal scorer in the Premier League for them. But yeah, Rodgers is fantastic value at 7.0. I think he is someone that gets 10 plus goals, 10 plus assists potentially. I think he can reach another level because he's just a super talented player overall. And I think he's someone that is going to be... I think he is pretty nailed to be in my Game Week 1 squad now that it seems like he's going to be healthy for Game Week 1. But yeah, over the course of the season, I think Rodgers is going to be fantastic. This time around, people won't bench him like they did last season, where they got punished every time they benched him, basically, because he is that player that you just want to play every single game with because he has that high-end potential, really. So yeah, 7.0 Rodgers, really like him. I also really like Elanga. I think it's going to suit Newcastle well and how they are going to set up to play this season. He's going to be a really good option at some points, including Game Week 3, where you can use the free hit and have some Newcastle players and Man United players that you otherwise wouldn't have. Again, just going to bang on the free hit 3 bandwagon here for anyone that hasn't noticed yet, if that's a really good tactic, basically. Finally, Semenyo. Could go either Semenyo or Kluivert there, really. I really like both of them for Bournemouth. Kluivert has the penalties. Semenyo has sort of the more upside, I think. Kluivert is sort of reached his top level now, it seems like, or at least from last season, he took another step up. Semenyo, I think, has even more to go. He has so many good natural qualities, but he has like some decision-making problems and still and stuff still, where he shoots quite a lot and stuff. So I think he has another level to go to. That's why I slightly prefer him over Kluivert. But I think him playing for Bournemouth, who are still going to be really good attacking wise under Areola, I think he's going to be a really good option as well for Bournemouth. So he's there at 7.0. Now we get to the 6.5 category, which is interesting because I have Rodri. And if you saw my video yesterday where I talked about the 3 best assets from each and every team, when I came to Man City, I had Rodri as my 3rd best asset. And if he plays every single game, he might be even better than that. Or once he's back from injury, if he plays every single game, 90 minutes, he might be even better than that. If I knew he was going to play 90 minutes every game, he's going to be tremendous value at 6.5 in my opinion, because the defensive contribution points have been added and he is a monster for defensive contribution points. He always gets like around 30-40 points in that regard. He's also way better offensively than people give him credit for in terms of FPL points. The last full season that he had, he obviously won the Ballon d'Or, which is going to be tough to replicate, of course. But he has proven that he can go forward and get goals and assists for this City side. They're going to have to attack a lot because they're a lot better offensively than they are defensively. And I think Rodri is going to get a lot of goals and assists once he starts playing. He's also going to get just consistently defensive contribution points. He is someone that was priced at 6.5 before defensive contribution points was the thing, and we've seen with other players like Bruno Fernandes, for example, going up to 9.0, even though he didn't have like a super season last season because we adjust for defensive contribution points. We also seen Tarkowski go up to 5.5, Mario go up to 5.5, just because of the defensive contribution points potential that they have. But we haven't seen Rodri go up in price, despite him being amazing at defensive contribution points. And I think the reason for that is just because FPL really just looked at last season's data. They didn't really care about the data before that when they made up the prices. And I think that means that Rodri is super high value for 6.5. Across the last 3 seasons, including the Ballon d'Or season and the 2 seasons prior to that as well, the last 3 full healthy seasons for Rodri, he's averaged around 170 points, close to 170 points, which is amazing for a 6.5 midfielder. So I think once he's ready to play, I'm just going to bring him in for 6.5. I'm going to play him each and every week because he's going to pick up consistently defensive contribution points, consistently get some goals and assists as well. I think it's just going to be a really nice pick that I can just keep, set and forget. One less transfer to worry about, and I think it's going to be really, really good value. So that is, again, my plea for why Rodri is going to be a cheat code eventually, but it's just a fitness thing. He's been out for a full year. Who knows if he's going to be up to speed again? That always is tough to see with ACL injuries and stuff. You never know how long they will take, but either this season or next season, I think Rodri is going to be amazing value. It just remains to be seen once he gets finally fully healthy and plays 90 minutes every game and can get those defensive contribution points in general. I think it's going to be amazing eventually. Ismail Assar for Palace as well. I think he's a really good value for 6.5. I think it's quite cheap actually compared to Eze at 7.5. I think Assar probably should have been 7.0. But yeah, he is a bit up and down as you saw last season. I didn't have the best of luck with him last season, but I know some other people did because he had some really explosive game weeks. I think the same is going to be said for this season as well. He's going to get some really high scores in some game weeks, and that is really nice to have at 6.5 as well. Really cheap price for him. Finally, Grealish for Everton. Now that he's been loaned out, he was so good at Aston Villa and worth way more than 6.5. Obviously, he's going to have to get acclimatized again to playing regular football, as he hasn't been doing that the last season for Manchester City. But we know the top level of Grealish is absolutely fantastic, and I think Everton are going to be really good this season as well, especially with the introduction to Grealish as well, of Grealish as well, as we've seen in the past with David Moyes, as with Jesse Lingard for West Ham. West Ham were really good at that point. Jesse Lingard was really good at that point, even though he wasn't that good of a player still, because he went to Nottingham Forest and kind of flopped after that. But Grealish, I think, is still someone that with a lot left in the tank, and I think Moyes will get the most out of him. So I think he's going to be a really good player at 6.5 as well. So I think I actually quite like that price point at 6.5 eventually. I think sorry maybe from the start of the season, but they have like slightly tough fixtures. But Rodri and Grealish will have to need some more game weeks to get acclimatized to playing regular football again for different reasons basically. But I quite like this price point for the entirety of the season basically. Next up, we have some more cheaper midfielders as well. So let's go through the final 4 price points for midfielders. 6.0, I think Georginio Rutter seems the most likely to play as the striker for Brighton as it stands right now. And as an out-of-position 6.0 guy for a pretty good team in Brighton, I think that's really, really good value. He has that super high potential. Also, he was brought in for a lot of money for Brighton. He has a lot of potential. He is a really talented player in general. So I think he could be a really sneakily good pick. I don't quite like the Brighton fixtures early on in the season though, so I'm going to stay away from him for my Game Week 1 squad. But I think for the entirety of the season, I think it's going to be really good value potentially. It remains to be seen what Brighton do in terms of rotation, in terms of buying new players and stuff. Maybe Welbeck plays, maybe one of their new Greek forwards play a lot as well. We'll see what happens eventually, but I think Jorginho Ritter could score a lot of goals and play as a striker for a lot of the season. Tielemans as well, really safe pick. I think he's going to be on penalties for Aston Villa. He's going to get quite a few defensive contribution points as well. So for 6.0, that's a pretty solid pick if you want to just keep him and play him every week, basically. I think the same could sort of be said for Lucas Paqueta. He has the sort of same role as Tielemans. He can get some defensive contribution points. He can also get some attacking points. He is also penalties, most likely, for West Ham as well. He's going to be a lot better now that he doesn't have the burden of the whole lawsuit against him for match fixing on his shoulders, basically. So I think Paqueta is going to have a really good season. And he's sort of similar to Tielemans in that way, that he's a solid pick at 6.0, but nothing like super exciting either. Then we come to the 5.5 midfielders, and we have Tijani Reinders, who I just like for a multitude of reasons. I've been a huge fan of his for a long time. I watched him play against West Ham in the Conference League for AZ Alkmaar. He was really good back then. Went to AC Milan, was really good there, and now he's gone to Man City, and I think he has super high potential at 5.5. I think they've sort of priced him wrongly there at that price point, because he is quite offensively minded. He scored 10 goals in the Serie A last season and has that Ilkay Gundogan potential of going forward and getting a lot of goals. We've seen a lot of midfielders in general for Man City. Even Kovacic as well has been getting forward and getting goals, and I think Reinders is going to get a lot of goals for Man City, and I think he's going to play quite a lot as well, because he's just really, really talented and really, really good. He's our best midfielder currently, as a central midfielder, at least, with Rodri out injured as well. So I think he's going to be a really good high-end pick, and that's what we're looking for the 5.5s. We have Anderson as well, who's like the more safe pick, I guess, but Anderson's going to get just like consistently 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 7 points, but Reinders has that sky-high potential where he can get a lot of points all of a sudden. And I think that's the thing with like the lower price points. You don't really want to play them each and every week necessarily, especially someone like Anderson. He's the one that you're like happy to start, but you don't really want to play him each and every week, because he's not going to get that many points in like one singular game week. Across the season, it's going to amount to a lot of points, but you're going to want to have more exciting players and switch around and have players, once they have better fixtures, to play in that spot instead. And that's why I like someone like Arias more, because he is going to be, one, Wolves' fixtures are really good. He's going to get way more points than Anderson. Looking for like, Anderson has pretty good fixtures in Game Week 5 and 6 as well, but that's not really going to help Anderson. He is not someone that is dependent on fixtures as much. He's going to get more just like consistently 2, 3, 4, or 3 or 4 pointers, 5 pointers sometimes as well, with the clean sheet as well. But Arias is someone that's going to get more high-end points in those easy fixtures once he has easy fixtures from Game Week 5 onwards, especially Arias. So yeah, I quite like better to like switch around and go for the more like high-end potential 5.5 midfielders rather than Anderson, who I think is going to be a pretty secure pick to get like 140 points this season. That's most likely going to be the case for Anderson. But how many of those points are you going to start, and how many of those points are you going to bench across the season? And are you going to want to keep Anderson for the whole season and just play him consistently and get all those 140 points? I'm not so sure. You kind of want to more switch around and go for someone that can get 20 points, and then you sell them again and they get 2 pointers when you don't have them in your team, basically. So yeah, that's my thing with Anderson. I do quite like him. He has more potential as well going forward. He is still a young player who could get more points, but I also think Nottingham Forest will be worse. He's going to be on set pieces though, so he's going to be good in that regard. So he's still a decent pick. That's why I have him as a bronze pick, but I don't think he's as exciting as the other potential 5.5 midfielders that I have in Reinders and Arias, for example. So he comes in third there at that price point, basically. Then at 5.0, we have Dewsbury Hall, who's my favorite player at that price point because he was priced as a Chelsea player and now is an Everton player. He's going to play most games for Everton. He's a really good player in general. He's also a really good attacking player. I think he's going to play in the 10 a little bit, but I also think Rick Grealish there and Yaya there, McNeil, Alcaraz, they have a lot of options in those attacking positions. I think it's going to play more center mid as well. So now with the addition of Grealish, I don't quite like him as much, Dewsbury Hall, but I think he's going to play some minutes as an attacking midfielder. I think his defensive contribution potential is going to be decent as well as the center mid as well. So he could take some set pieces as well. So I think in general he's a really solid, good pick, especially from the start of the season as Grealish is working himself way back into fitness as well. Dewsbury Hall is going to be a really good pick early on, I think, for 5.0. Baleba is someone that has high-end potential. He is someone that could become a really good box-to-box type of player. Get more goals than usual. Also defensive contribution points. He's going to get quite a lot for Brighton. He's just a really talented player overall. Really like Baleba in general. I think he's going to be a sneakily good pick at 5.0 potentially as the season goes along. But again, defensive contribution points are not like explosive. You're not going to lose out like a monster haul from Baleba early on because he's not that type of guy. He's one that could get, or he's going to consistently get like 4 or 5 points, probably from the defensive contribution points and sometimes clean sheets. but he's not going to take over and get those 12, 15, 16 pointers that we've seen from, for example, Sar last season. He was 5.5 last season. It's much better to have those players. I made this point now several times, but yeah, you get what I mean. When it comes to, speaking of Sar, actually, we have a different Sar, Pape Matthias Sar at Spurs. I always struggle with his name for some reason, the second name. But yeah, he is someone that could play at the number 10 for Spurs. We've seen that in preseason, actually. And we also saw against PSG when he played more defensively. He can also get a lot of defensive contribution points. He's a really good player. I think he will be even more unlocked by having Thomas Frank as his manager. I think he could be a really good standout player this season in general. So I quite like him at 5.0 actually. And I might start the season because from the start of the season, Dewsbury Hall is a good fixture. So he is probably my preferred 5.0 midfielder. But I might go with Sar as well if he's more suited for my fixtures. Currently, I don't have any 5.0 midfielder, but I might go there potentially. And Sar is one that I'm looking at potentially with Spurs, especially that first game week fixture against Burnley. Sar might play in the number 10 role, which would be a really, really nice player to have. So yeah, I quite like him as well in general, not only for the start of the season, but I think in general, he's going to be really good with Thomas Frank as his new manager now. At 4.5, I think Josh King from Fulham is the standout pick because he is going to be the most likely player to play. He's also super talented, also playing quite offensively. So I think he's actually someone that could be really, really good if he's early enough in his development to be a main player for Fulham at this point. They're kind of struggling to fill in that attacking midfielder position, and I think King could step in there and be the main guy there for Fulham, which is a pretty good team. So for 4.5, he has super high potential, and that's why I have him currently over the 5.0 midfielders, because I quite like to have just that cheapest price point possible for a player that I'm going to bench most game weeks, but someone that still has potential to play and be a pretty good productive player offensively as well later on in this season. Second pick is Potts from West Ham. He's going to play most likely in Game 1 at least, might be the starting midfielder for West Ham as they're looking to get more midfielders in, because West Ham's midfield is really bad currently as it stands. So Potts has decent chances of playing, not too much though. Lewis Miley at the bronze pick, even less so. He had some minutes like 2 seasons ago, I think it was, for Newcastle. He has a lot of talent, at least. He might play, but that midfield for Newcastle is really hard to break into as well. But he has potential to play as well. There's not that many other 4.5 or midfielders that have potential to play as well. So yeah, Miley comes in as the final pick in the 4.5 section in the midfielders, the final midfielder pick in general, basically. Let's move on to the forwards. These are the most expensive forwards, and again, not much variety here. We only have one spot that is contentious. That's the 9.0 attackers in Gyökeres and Watkins, where I've gone with the more controversial pick of Gyökeres. Let's just start with the 9.0s in general, because this is like one of the main questions I have for my Game 1 squad as well. I've personally gone with Gyökeres to start the season over Watkins. Currently, I might go with both still, because I quite like them both, especially from the start of the season. But the reason for me doing that is the fact that I'm free hitting in Game Week 3 when Gyökeres has Liverpool and Watkins has Palace at home. So that game week, I can just bring in Watkins and play him there instead. And with game week 1, 2, and 4, I think Gyökeres has better fixtures than Watkins, especially if he starts. I think that's most likely going to be the case with Havertz struggling with injuries in preseason. I think Gyökeres is going to play him against Man United. That Leeds fixture in game week 2 is the most interesting fixture in general. I think I could get a really nice captain differential in Gyökeres there if he starts and if he looks likely to start. So I quite like him there in general. Over the course of the season, I think Arsenal, once they get better fixtures as well, Gyökeres is going to bang in goals. I think it's going to be fantastic this season. But of course, it's a high bar because Watkins is going to get close to or maybe even exceed 200 plus points as well this season, because he is that type of level of striker. So quite like both those players. Slightly prefer Gyökeres, but I might go with both of them to start the season still. That's how much I like them both. Haaland, I've actually made one Salah, Haaland, Palmer draft, and I was quite surprised that I actually quite liked it. So I might go with Haaland, but I think early season, the fixtures just aren't good enough until game week 6 when I'm looking to bring him in potentially. But yeah, the first 5 game weeks, don't like him quite enough where I want to pick him and spend so much money on him on top of having Salah, and then having to play it out and just keeping Haaland, because you can't really sell Haaland. If you start the season with him, you need to stick with him until game week 9, because he has really good fixtures from game week 6 through game week 9, or game week 6 through game week 8 at least. So you sort of need to stick with him through that if you're starting the season with him, I think, because you don't want to miss that Burnley at home fixture in game week 6 if you start the season with him. So that makes it a bit difficult to start the season with him for my liking, but I do quite like the draft that I had with Haaland in the squad as well. So I'm still not completely off the Haaland for game week 1 thing, just because he's so good and so consistently good from the first few games of the season normally. But I'm probably not going to have him in my squad. But I do quite like him, especially from game 13 onwards when City have really good fixtures. Haaland's going to be a lock in my team, and I think it's going to be really good value at points this season in general. I think switching between Haaland and Salah is going to be more the meta this game, or meta this season, however you say that, the best possible way to get points. So yeah, I think Haaland's going to be an interesting player in general. Isak, of course, who knows what's going to happen with him? He's going to go to Liverpool. It seems the most likely. He's going to stay at Newcastle and play for Newcastle. He's going to stay at Newcastle and not play for Newcastle. Who really knows? He's someone that you can wait and see on regardless, because he hasn't really played in preseason. Newcastle have terrible fixtures. If he moves to Liverpool, he'll need some more time to get acclimatized, and I think Ekitike will get a decent run as a striker as well. So he's a wait and see, but he's going to be really good value eventually, I think. Whether he stays at Newcastle or goes to Liverpool, he's going to be someone that you want to have in your squad at some point this season. And speaking of Ekitike, he's the 8.5 the only 8.5 forward in the game as well. And I think from game week 1, he's actually like a sneaky good pick as well. Like I said with Isak, if he moves to Liverpool and sort of dampens the appeal of Ekitike, then he still probably won't play in game week 4 as a starter either, because he won't have had a preseason. But yeah, I think that is going to drag on through the game week 3 deadline. Of course, game week 4 is after the international break, so maybe Isak will be ready to play at that point. But I think Ekitike is actually a sneaky good pick if you want to have a player for the first 4 game weeks. He's really good. He's shown his worth in preseason. The goal in the Community Shield was really, really good. And I think especially if Isak never comes to Liverpool, Ekitike at 8.5 is going to be a steal for the entirety of the season. So he's someone that I'm really interested in general, basically, Ekitike. So yeah, quite like him at 8.5 as well. But obviously, no other options at that price point. There's also no other options at the 8.0 price point. And once again, I actually really like the player there. Bowen is someone that has been nailed in my team. Of course, it is slightly West Ham bias as a West Ham fan for me. But just a good opening fixture against Sunderland. Decent fixtures, I think. Like no really bad fixtures, mostly for West Ham early on. I think Bowen has the potential to score a lot of points, as he has done for the last 4 seasons. He's so consistent. He gets goals and assists. West Ham should be better this season than last season. Paquetá is someone that has been really vital for Bowen and his goal returns. And I think Paquetá is going to be at his best level again this season. So I think Bowen's going to be a really good pick for the entirety of the season, from the start of the season, really regardless of when you play him. He's going to play up front next to Fulkrug most of the time because of the system that West Ham play in. So I think he's actually a really good asset at 8.0, and I've talked a lot about Bowen, so I don't really need to go too much into it now as well in this video. 7.5, I think Mateta is someone that I really, really like. He seems to be on penalties now for Crystal Palace. Remains to be seen if Eze leaves or stays. I think that might hamper Mateta if Eze leaves now, because Mateta seems to be on penalties anyway, and Eze going out would make Palace a worse team offensively. So yeah, I'm hoping Eze stays for Mateta's sake, because I think Mateta is going to be really good. Once again, as he's shown under Oliver Glasner, he is one of the better strikers in the league, actually. He's actually been really good the last 2 seasons. So yeah, Mateta, really like him at 7.5. He is a nailed player at like 90 minutes. I think the start of last season he didn't really play as much because Nketiah came in and they sort of wanted to play him as well, but they realized quickly that Mateta is just a superior striker, so he's going to play 90 minutes most games. That's not something you can say for Joao Pedro. He's going to be subbed off pretty early, most likely, in many games because Rory Delap is also at Chelsea. But when he plays, Joao Pedro is really good, even though he doesn't have penalties anymore. He's a bit of a risky pick still, I think. The 7.5 is a pretty nice price point as well. If he's a starting striker most game weeks for Chelsea, which I do think he will be, playing 60-70 minutes for a really good team, that is a really cheap price point to be at as well. So yeah, I quite like Joao Pedro at 7.5 as well. Also Dominic Solanke, who might be ready for Game Week 1, might not be. He came on in the Super Cup. Who knows if he'll be ready for Game Week 1, but I think across the season, under Thomas Frank, who's been really good with strikers across his FPL or Premier League career, Thomas Frank at Brentford, the strikers have always been good. So I think Solanke is going to be really good eventually this season as well. 7.5, really good price point in general. A lot of good strikers there. You also have Shesko. You have Chris Wood, of course, as well. Some other options as well there. So yeah, interesting price point, but I think Mateta, Joao Pedro, and Solanke are my 3 favorites at that price point, basically. 7.0, again, we have no other options than Evan Nilsson, and I think Evan Nilsson is actually quite a good striker who should probably have been at that 7.5 price point, but they probably wanted someone at that 7.0 price point, so they went with Evan Nilsson as the option there. But yeah, playing as a striker for Bournemouth, going to play most games for them. Not on penalties as of yet, but he took a penalty last season, missed it, and then lost the penalties to Kluivert, but maybe especially with Cloyford injured now from the start of the season. Maybe Evan Nilsson takes them again for Bournemouth. But yeah, I think he's a really good pick at 7.0 and the only option you have at that price point, of course. So you got to choose him as the best option at that price point. 6.5, some really nice options here as well. Strand Larsen, I really like for Wolves. He had a lot of goal involvements last season. Now that Cunha has left, he's going to get more goal share as well for Wolves. They're going to be worse offensively, but as we saw in the matches that they didn't have Cunha in last season, where they still played pretty well, Strand Larsen was even better without Cunha in terms of goal scoring in FPL. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really good pick at 6.5. He's someone that I'm eyeing for Game Week 5 potentially, bringing in him for potentially Gyökeres at that point. To save some money, it just depends what I do, but I think Strand Larsen is going to be in my team at some point this season because I think he has the potential to score a lot of goals for Wolves. I quite like him as a player in general. I've followed him for a long time. I had him even in Eliteserien Fantasy, the Norwegian Fantasy League. As a Norwegian, I played that back in the day when he really struggled to score. He's become a much better finisher since then, but overall, he's just such a good striker that I really like. He's going to be a good player for Wolves this season. Raul Jimenez at 6.5 as well for Fulham. He's going to be the starting striker for them unless they bring in someone else, but he was really good and back to his best last season, and I think that can continue this season with Fulham. Just having that consistent team with Marco Silva as well. They're going to be a safe team to get in like around the 10th spot in the league, I think. Just a really solid team in general, and Raul Jimenez has been a really solid FPL pick overall, getting points just like consecutively, getting like decent amount of points with his honest work, as we know from back in the day with Wolves, and now he's back to his best at Fulham as well, so that's really nice to see. Liam Delap as well for Chelsea. Especially if Joao Pedro gets injured, for example, Delap is going to be the go-to guy to go for, which was a fun sentence. But he is going to be like nailed on as a striker for Chelsea if that's the case, and he would be fantastic value at 6.5. But yeah, the playing time doesn't look the best currently. He seems like a bit part come on and play type of player off the bench, but he also showed for Chelsea that he can score goals off the bench as well the last preseason game that they had. So yeah, he has decent value at 6.5, and I quite like him, especially if Joao Pedro is out for some reason. Delap is going to be a really nice player to have in general. So yeah, decent player at 6.5, but again, playing time sort of hampers his appeal a little bit. Finally, the last few remaining attackers at the lower price points from 6.0 to 4.5. 6.0 is actually a pretty good price point in general. I think Igor Thiago, if Brentford stay with just him as their striker, if they sell Wissa and they keep Igor Thiago as their main number 9, he's going to be fantastic value. It's just we don't really know if that's going to happen yet. We also know that Brentford's fixtures early on are really, really bad. Apart from Game Week 3, once again, I'm going to, for the last time, say Game Week 3 free hit is the way to go because Igor Thiago might be the amazing player that you want to have against Sunderland in that game week as a nailed striker for Brentford. That could be a really good option for 6.0. But yeah, Brentford's early fixtures are really tough, so I think it's just a wait and see with Igor Thiago. He's going to be really good eventually because Brentford strikers are usually really good. Maybe that's the Thomas Frank thing. We'll see that. We'll get the answer to that this season, whether Solanke is amazing or if Thiago is amazing. Maybe both are amazing. Maybe neither are amazing. We'll see what happens with them. But Thiago is a really good pick at 6.0, especially if he stays as the main striker there. And it seems like Callum Mwendo now might go to Nottingham Forest in the end and sort of hamper the appeal of Chris Wood instead. And Thiago might just be the main number 9 for Brentford. So he could be a really good option there. If he continues to play there, if they don't bring in another striker, for example. I also think Fulkrug for West Ham is going to play most games. He's going to be like more in and out of the team, I guess, because he has both injury prone and is also someone that I think Graham Potter has said that is more like a impact sort of player, not like someone you can consistently rely on 90 minutes from. But I think he's a really solid pick at 6.0, especially early season. I think he's going to play a lot of matches, but obviously Callum Wilson has come in as well for West Ham, and he might play some minutes there as well alongside Bowen. So yeah, Fulkrug is a decent option to start the season at least. And yeah, he has really high potential. He is a German international, like I've said a couple of times. He is much better than people give him credit for, and I'm quite happy to see him become like a semi-relevant FPL pick this season in a lot of managers' teams and stuff as well. So yeah, I think he gets way much bad rep than what he deserves, because he was actually pretty good when he played last season. He was still like decent. He had some pretty good matches, even though the goal scoring wasn't quite there yet. I think he's a really good striker in general, and like just a lovely guy, it seems like, as well, a fun guy in general. Tierno Barry from Everton as well. seems like he's going to be the starting striker at some point this season, maybe even for Game Week 1. And I think Everton's going to have a really good season, so I think Barry could be a really nice player. But we also have at 5.5 Beto, who's most likely going to start the season as striker for Everton. He's also really good. I think he's also someone that suits David Moyes' system as well, so I quite like both of these players actually, just depending on who starts for them. They're also being linked now to other strikers all of a sudden, so yeah, I don't really know. They're being linked to Dovbyk, I think, the former La Liga top scorer for Girona 2 seasons back. I don't really know why, because Barry and Beto seems like the best like striker sort of rotation thing that they have. One young up-and-coming striker, one older late bloomer striker that they can use, both of them or either of them in any game. Yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see who plays and if they just keep them or if they bring in another player as well, which will definitely hamper the appeal of both of them really. Armando Broja as well has gone to Burnley. Again, not the biggest fan. Burnley are not going to get that many goals this season, but he's going to play consistently, I think, at that price, which is more than can be said about Simas from Brighton, who is basically just a backup at the striker position, either behind Ritter or Welbeck, or even maybe both. But he has been brought in for a lot of money, and he could potentially break into the team and be a really good option at 5.5 as a striker for Brighton. So yeah, keep him in mind at least. 5.0 strikers. Just not really much to choose from here. I've just picked people that might get some time to play at some points this season. I think this is like the worst price point of them all. Kalajic, like a backup big man striker for Wolves. He has really good high end potential, but I think Strand Larsen is like the clear number 9 for Wolves. But if Strand Larsen for some reason gets injured, I think Kalajic could come in and play and could do a decent job at it as well. He's also someone that could be like high impact like Fulkrug and come in and get some goals. From just being super tall as well. So he's like a decent player. He was out injured for a long time and now he's back. So he might get some playing time potentially at some point this season. But again, 5.0 is a really tough price point. Lucas Namecha as well from Leeds. He's been brought in at least on a free transfer. So you'd expect him to play some minutes. But yeah, I don't really know how much he's going to play and where he's going to play as well. Especially now with Calvert-Lewin seeming likely to come in for Leeds as well as their striker. I think Namecha is going to have just like a bit part role for Leeds in general, so I'm not really feeling him too much either. Lyle Foster as well, I don't really think he's going to play much for Burnley either. He was just a fun pick 2 seasons ago, slightly, in like a limited amount of time. He was actually a relevant FPL pick around that price point at 5.0, but this season not so much. 5.0 is a really tough price point in general for forwards. 4.5 we actually have some better options, especially Marguerite, who I think is going to be a really decent striker once he gets to play more. Sunderland obviously not the best team. They had they were the worst team coming up from the championship last season, but they have also strengthened the most, including the likes of Mark Yu, who's now here at 4.5, which is what he was priced at Chelsea. Looking at the 5.0 midfielder or the forwards, I don't really know why Mark Yu wasn't priced at 5.0 because he was like a pretty likely target to be loaned out in general. I said that early on this preseason. I said Mark Yu is going to go on loan to either Leeds or someone else. He ended up going to Sunderland. He's going to be a steal at 4.5 eventually this season, but from the start of the season, doesn't seem like he's going to start. He's still working his way back into fitness. That's what I'm trying to say. So maybe a wait and see. But if you want just like your cheap attacker or like your bench fodder attacker to be forward, then Marquis is the way to go at 4.5. You also have Krupi Jr. from Bournemouth, who could play at left wing potentially, especially if Dongo leaves. He could take over that spot for Bournemouth. I think number 9, I think that's going to be Evan Nilsson pretty securely. So Krupi is not going to be he's going to be like the negative out of position player where he plays as a winger rather than as a forward. But still, for 4.5, what more can you ask for really? Obi as well for Man United. Now that they have Šeško, I think there's even less chance of him getting playing time, but he is really, really talented. There's a reason why he's been so hyped up for Man United. So maybe if he has a breakthrough for some reason this season, he will be a steal at 4.5 for Man United with older attacking talents in general, especially if someone like Šeško gets injured and they don't have anyone else to play there because Højlund is bad and Xerxes is also potentially injured. Obi could play there, but yeah, again, not likely to play that much at all. But yeah, that is pretty much all of the price points. My 3 favorite picks at each and every one of them, or at least when I had the chance to pick 3 players. I hope you enjoyed that video. A lot of talk, a lot of free hit Game Week 3 propaganda. Again, I'm going to bang on that drum even in my team selection video tomorrow, which will be my final video of the preseason. I wish I could have done more. I was obviously a bit busy with my vacation in Sri Lanka, attending a wedding, which was amazing. I don't regret that at all because it was a great time. I had a lot of good food and had a lot of good times with a lot of good people. So yeah, I don't regret that at all. But still, preseason content has been pretty good. I think there's another level I can go to, kind of like Baleba as well. Pretty talented, but could go to another level, have some more attacking threat, I guess, or the equivalent to that in video making, content creation. Anyways, I'm blabbering on. This is probably what I should cut out, just like talking like this, like a crazy person. But that's also part of the charm, I guess, of this channel. Hopefully, I don't know. If you're sticking around until this point in the video, if you watch the whole video, then yeah, you must be liking something that I'm doing. So yeah, if you do, then like this video. Then you would actually literally like something that I'm doing. Mainly this video right now. But you can also subscribe if you like me talking about FPL constantly without a script, just going on for an hour, speaking out the best players at each and every price point, which is what I did just now. Yeah, just finishing it up right now. Didn't really have a clever thing to say there, so I kind of stalled, and now I'm stalling even more. And I'm again blabbering on, as I shouldn't, probably. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the content. See you tomorrow for the last video before the season starts. And finally, we're going to get some FPL action. And once we get that, I'm going to have 4, maybe 5 videos per week. That's what I'm aiming for, including the initial Monday or Tuesday. Monday this time around, I'm going to have a run through all the matches in Game Week 1, talking about what I saw, both in terms of with my eyes and the FPL eye test, which is what the video is called, and also in terms of the numbers as well, which aren't as relevant for one game, but it's also kind of fun to have it as well there. So yeah, you'll see that once the season starts. So hopefully you subscribe for that. And again, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.